2,000 years ago, a civilization built machines without engines, cities without steel, and structures so durable that many continue to serve their original purpose today. No reinforced concrete, no electricity, no hydraulic cranes, only human hands, simple tools, and an extraordinary understanding of nature. Yet, after centuries of wars, earthquakes, floods, dynasties, and political upheaval, these creations are still here. Some still carry water, some still protect cities, some still withstand powerful earthquakes. The real mystery isn't how ancient China built them. The real mystery is why modern engineers are still studying them. How did builders working over 2,000 years ago create structures that have outlived entire empires? And what did they understand about engineering that we often overlook today? By the end of this video, you'll discover 6 astonishing projects that reveal a completely different philosophy of construction, one based not on overpowering nature, but on understanding it so deeply that nature itself became part of the design. Let's begin with the most famous monument in China, because almost everything people believe about the Great Wall is only part of the story. The Great Wall of China is often imagined as one continuous barrier stretching endlessly across mountains and deserts. It isn't. What we call the Great Wall is actually a network of walls, fortresses, beacon towers, trenches, and defensive lines built over nearly 2,000 years by multiple kingdoms and dynasties. The earliest sections existed long before China became a unified empire. When Qin Shi Huang united the country, he connected many existing walls instead of creating an entirely new one. Centuries later, the Ming dynasty rebuilt large portions using bricks and stone, producing the iconic sections visited by millions today. Together, every surviving branch measures more than 21,000 kilometers. But its greatest achievement isn't its length. It's where it was built. Rather than following easy terrain, the wall climbs steep mountain ridges, crosses wind-swept deserts, and wins through landscapes where transporting building materials seems almost impossible. Granite blocks weighing hundreds of kilograms had to be hauled uphill by hand. Where stone was unavailable, builders adapted by compacting layers of earth, gravel, reeds, and local materials into remarkably durable walls that still survive centuries later. This flexibility reveals one of ancient China's greatest engineering strengths. Instead of forcing the same solution everywhere, builders designed according to local conditions. Then came one of history's most unexpected construction materials: sticky rice. Modern scientists discovered that many Ming dynasty walls were built using lime mortar mixed with cooked, glutinous rice. The rice starch bonded with the lime, creating a stronger and more flexible material capable of resisting weather and earthquakes far better than ordinary mortar. But the Great Wall wasn't simply a defensive barrier. It was also one of history's largest communication networks. Thousands of watchtowers stood within sight of one another. Smoke signals during the day and beacon fires at night could relay warnings across hundreds of kilometers in just a few hours, far faster than any messenger on horseback. The Great Wall protected China's borders. More importantly, it connected an empire. But the next engineering wonder was never meant to protect the living. It was created for a single emperor and hidden beneath the earth for more than 2,000 years. In 1974, a group of farmers digging a well near Xi'an struck something that should never have been there. At first, they thought it was broken pottery. Then, a life-sized human face emerged from the earth, calm, expressionless, staring upward after more than 2,000 years underground. That accidental discovery revealed one of archaeology's greatest treasures, the Terracotta Army. As excavations continued, the true scale became almost impossible to comprehend. Thousands of full-sized soldiers appeared row after row. Infantry stood beside cavalry. Archers knelt in battle position. War chariots waited behind them. More than 600 horses completed the formation. Around 8,000 warriors had been arranged exactly as if they were preparing to march into battle. But these soldiers would never fight a human enemy. They had been created to protect China's first emperor in the afterlife. The astonishing part isn't simply the number of statues, it's the individuality. Walk through the excavation pits and no two warriors appear identical. Some look young, others seem much older, different hairstyles, different facial expressions, different armor. Even ears and mustaches vary from one figure to the next. It feels less like an army of statues and more like thousands of real people frozen in clay. How could craftsmen produce so many unique figures over 2,000 years ago? The answer reveals a manufacturing technique centuries ahead of its time. Instead of sculpting each warrior from scratch, workshops produced standardized body parts in batches. Legs, torsos, arms, heads. These components were assembled much like pieces on an assembly line. Only after construction did skilled artists reshape the faces and fine details by hand, giving every soldier a unique identity. It's a manufacturing principle that modern factories still follow today. Standardize production, then customize the final product. The warriors also carried real bronze weapons. Many remained buried for more than 22 centuries. When archaeologists uncovered them, several swords still gleamed. Some blades remained remarkably sharp. The level of preservation surprised researchers and demonstrated just how advanced ancient Chinese metalworking had become. Yet the greatest mystery still lies beneath the nearby burial mound. Ancient records describe the emperor resting beneath a model of his empire, complete with rivers said to flow with liquid mercury. Modern surveys have detected unusually high mercury concentrations around the tomb. Even today, archaeologists have chosen not to open it, not because they lack curiosity, but because current technology cannot guarantee that whatever survives inside can be preserved once exposed to air. Some secrets remain safer untouched. While the Terracotta Army prepared for eternity beneath the earth, ancient Chinese engineers were solving another challenge above ground. Not death, not war, but the survival of an entire empire. Most empires don't collapse because they run out of soldiers. They collapse because they can't feed them. Ancient China faced exactly that problem. Its richest farmland lay in the fertile south, while many of its political capitals stood far to the north. Between them stretched mountains, rivers flowing east toward the sea, and thousands of kilometers of difficult terrain. Moving grain over land was painfully slow. Without a reliable transport system, the empire itself would always remain fragile. Nature offered no solution. So China decided to build one. The result was the Grand Canal, the longest artificial waterway ever constructed. Rather than digging one enormous trench, engineers linked existing rivers, lakes, and newly excavated channels into a single transportation network stretching nearly 1,800 kilometers. It transformed separate waterways into one continuous highway. Construction reached its greatest scale under the Sui dynasty, where millions of laborers were conscripted for the project. The human cost was immense, and the burden placed on the population helped weaken the dynasty itself. Ironically, the rulers who expanded the canal disappeared. The canal remained. For more than 1,000 years it carried grain, taxes, merchants, government officials, and soldiers between northern and southern China, helping hold one of history's largest civilizations together. The greatest engineering challenge wasn't digging the canal, it was elevation. Water doesn't flow uphill, yet the route crossed landscapes sitting at different heights. Ancient engineers answered this problem with one brilliant invention: the pound lock. A boat entered a chamber sealed by gates. Water inside the chamber was then raised or lowered until it matched the next section of canal. The opposite gate opened, allowing the boat to continue its journey. Today, this technology seems ordinary. At the time, it changed inland transportation forever. Even more remarkable, parts of the Grand Canal are still operating today. Modern cargo barges continue traveling waterways first excavated more than 14 centuries ago. The engines have changed. The cargo has changed, but the route still serves the same purpose. It remains one of the clearest examples of infrastructure designed not for one generation, but for dozens. Yet while the Grand Canal connected an empire through water, the next project attempted something that sounded almost impossible. One monk believed carving a mountain into the shape of a giant Buddha could calm one of China's most dangerous rivers. Strangely enough, he was right. Standing before the Leshan giant Buddha is an experience few photographs can capture. At 71 meters tall, the statue rises directly from a sandstone cliff where 3 rivers meet. Its shoulders are wider than a basketball court. Each ear measures nearly 7 meters long. A single toenail is large enough for a person to stand on. But its greatest achievement isn't its size. It's the problem it was built to solve. More than 1,200 years ago, these rivers were infamous for violent currents that overturned boats and claimed countless lives. Merchants feared the crossing, and travelers often took long detours to avoid it. A Buddhist monk named Hai Tong believed something had to change. His proposal sounded impossible. He would carve an enormous Buddha directly into the mountainside overlooking the river. According to tradition, the Buddha's presence would calm the dangerous waters and protect those who passed below. Construction began in the 8th century and continued for nearly 90 years, long after Hai Tong himself had died. Generations of craftsmen devoted their lives to completing a project whose original visionary would never see the finished result. Hidden inside the statue is an engineering system almost invisible to visitors. Drainage channels run through the Buddha's hair, behind its ears, inside its robe, and across its body. Whenever rain falls, water is quietly carried away before it can soak into the soft sandstone. Without this network, centuries of erosion would have slowly destroyed the monument. Instead, the Buddha continues watching over the river more than 12 centuries later. Then came an unexpected consequence. As workers carved millions of kilograms of rock from the cliff, much of the stone fell into the river below. Over time, this debris subtly reshaped the riverbed. The current slowed. Dangerous whirlpools weakened. Navigation became noticeably safer. Hai Tong believed the Buddha would calm the river. In an unexpected way, it actually did. Sometimes engineering succeeds not because of miracles, but because understanding nature produces results that feel miraculous. Yet remarkable as the giant Buddha is, it remains a monument. Our next achievement is something even more extraordinary. It isn't a monument, it isn't a palace, it isn't a ruin. It's a machine that has been operating continuously for more than 2,200 years. Most ancient engineering eventually becomes history. Walls crumble, temples become ruins, palaces turn into museums. But every once in a while, history leaves behind something far more extraordinary. A machine that never stopped doing its job. Around 250 BC, the Chengdu Plain suffered from 2 opposite disasters. During the rainy season, the Min River flooded entire villages and destroyed crops. Months later, the same farmland struggled with drought. Too much water. Then too little. For generations, people believed the obvious solution was to build a dam, and force the river under human control. One engineer disagreed. His name was Li Bing. Instead of fighting the river, he spent years studying it. He observed how the current changed with the seasons, where sediment settled, and how floodwaters naturally spread across the plain. Then he designed something completely different. The system, known as Dujiangyan, uses no dam at all. A levee shaped like a fish's mouth divides the river into two channels. The outer channel safely carries away floodwater. The inner channel directs just enough water toward farmland. As river levels rise or fall, the flow adjusts naturally. There are no pumps, no mechanical gates, no engines. The river regulates itself. Li Bing solved another problem as well. Most irrigation systems eventually clog with sand and gravel carried downstream. Instead of constantly removing sediment by hand, he designed a narrow channel where faster-moving water naturally flushed much of it away before it could accumulate. Nature performed the maintenance, not people. That simple idea explains why Dujiangyan has survived while countless other ancient water systems disappeared. More than 2,200 years later, it continues irrigating over 5,000 square kilometers of farmland, supporting millions of people across the Chengdu Plain. Think about that. Many modern dams require enormous maintenance after only a few decades. This ancient system has continued operating for more than 20 centuries because it doesn't try to overpower the river, it works with it. Perhaps that's the greatest engineering lesson of all. The smartest solution isn't always the strongest one. Sometimes, it's the one that understands the problem so completely that almost no force is needed. But ancient China's final masterpiece faced an enemy far more unpredictable than water, the ground itself. And somehow, its builders discovered how to make an entire palace survive earthquakes without using a single nail. For 5 centuries, it was the most restricted place in China. Behind walls 10 meters high and a moat 50 meters wide stood the political heart of an empire, the Forbidden City. Nearly 1,000 buildings spread across an immense palace complex built almost entirely from wood. That alone seems risky. Because Beijing sits in a region frequently struck by powerful earthquakes. Stone buildings nearby have collapsed over the centuries, yet the Forbidden City remains standing. The secret isn't hidden beneath the foundations, it's hidden above the columns. Ancient builders developed an ingenious system of interlocking wooden brackets known as dogong. Instead of relying on nails or glue, every beam and bracket fits together like an enormous three-dimensional puzzle. Each piece supports the next, while allowing tiny movements throughout the structure. When an earthquake strikes, rigid buildings resist the shaking until something breaks. The Forbidden City does something different. It bends. The wooden joints absorb energy, allowing the buildings to sway with the movement of the ground before settling back into place. Modern laboratory tests have shown that structures built with traditional dugong joints can survive extremely powerful simulated earthquakes. Centuries before engineers understood seismic energy mathematically, Chinese carpenters had already learned how to manage it through observation and experience. Even transporting the construction materials required remarkable ingenuity. Massive Nanmu timbers were hauled thousands of kilometers from forests in southwest China. Enormous carved stone slabs presented an even greater challenge. During winter, workers poured water along transport routes until it froze, creating long sheets of ice. The stones were then dragged across the frozen surface, dramatically reducing friction. Rather than fighting nature, they used it. That same philosophy appears in every structure we've explored. The Great Wall adapted to the landscape instead of forcing the landscape to adapt. The Terracotta Army mastered standardized production centuries before the Industrial Revolution. The Grand Canal connected an empire by reshaping geography. The Leshan giant Buddha quietly protected itself through hidden engineering. Dujiangyan guided a river instead of stopping it. And the Forbidden City transformed destructive earthquakes into gentle movement. None of these achievements relied on mysterious technology. Their builders simply observed the world with extraordinary patience. They understood that the strongest engineering doesn't always come from adding more material, more force, or more complexity. Sometimes the greatest breakthrough comes from working with nature instead of against it. That may be the real reason these creations continue to survive after 2,000 years. Empires disappeared, dynasties rose and fell, wars changed the map of Asia. Yet rivers still flow through channels they designed, boats still travel waterways they excavated, palaces still stand where earthquakes should have destroyed them. Great engineering doesn't simply solve today's problems. It solves tomorrow's as well. So, here's a question for you. Which of these 6 ancient masterpieces impressed you the most? And which one would you most like to experience in person? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering the forgotten engineering that still shapes our world today, don't forget to subscribe. Because history isn't just something we read about. Sometimes it's still quietly working.